Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Yes, I know I left out 101 jokes from the worst book in the entire universe. Yes, it is difficult to classify the book. What is it? It is not a biography because, by his own admission, Harry wrote it with the help of someone else. It is not an autobiography because someone else's dirty fingers are obviously all over it. It is not a coffee table book. It is far too ugly for that. It is not 100% fiction, and it is not 100% non-fiction. So we can only call it a piece of trash, a waste of paper, and I wonder how many trees had to die to produce it. Anyway, let's quickly go through the rest of the Disney meets Hallmark style book. Again, in no chronological order. I mean, who cares at this point? Harold, and yes, I know he is generally called Harry, and his real name is Henry. But from now on, he is Harold to me. Okay, fine. Okay, so Harold says it was only made to look like he was Big Willie's best man, when in reality, Big Willie, or then Wolves, as the rest of the family had called him for just about forever, would not let him give a speech after the wedding, but instead appointed his friends James Mead and Thomas von Straubenzee to actually give the speech at the reception. Well, I don't know whether this is true or not, but I'm willing to bet that it is true, as I'm very sure that William did not trust Harold to give a speech and possibly embarrass him in front of his grandmother and grandfather, the Middletons, and everyone else. Harold says Wolves was still drunk when they went out to meet the crowd before the wedding, and his breath smelled of old rum, and that the kind Harold had to give him a mint. Oh, how devastating! What a revelation! Well, I think a good 80% of men face that dilemma before their wedding or after their stag party, with the only difference being that they don't have to go out and face a crowd and don't have a brother who goes and blabs it to the world. In any event, the way I heard the story, it was Harold who seriously misbehaved the night before the wedding, so much so that he needed intervention. Anyway, Harold also tells how Wolves ordered him to shave for his own wedding because he, Willie, was jealous that he was not allowed to grow a beard. Okay, yes, I think it's more like Wolves does not have a fish mouth and a double chin to hide. But what the heck? Harold also spends precious time and wastes even more paper telling the world how Mog asked Catherine to borrow her lip gloss, how Catherine reluctantly gave it to her, and how Catherine grimaced. Well, yes, so would I. It is honestly not healthy sharing makeup, something my dear grandmother taught me when I was about 12. And she did so in graphic detail, telling me about styes and cold sores, etc., etc. Harold also tells the world how he believed that Diana faked her death to escape the press for a while, and allegedly and according to Harold, he has spent the subsequent decades trying to find out what really happened the night of the accident. Harold tells how during the Rugby World Cup Series semi-final in Paris in 2007, he asked his driver to drive through the tunnel at exactly 65 kilometers per hour, the same speed as Diana's car had been traveling. According to Harold, he always imagined the tunnel to be a treacherous passageway, but found it to be a no-frills, simple, short tunnel. However, Harold says he did then finally come to the realization that his mother was dead and gone for good. Harold also admits that they announced Mog's pregnancy at Eugenie's wedding. So we were right all along. Yes. At the reception, to be precise, is where they announced it. According to Harold, Will's immediate response was that they must tell Kate. Well, I think that's normal. According to Harold, he devoured a Nando's while Mog was in labor with Archie. According to Harold, his bodyguards brought the Nando's takeaway to the hospital for him. He also admitted to using laughing gas to calm his nerves. He appears more descriptive of Lily's birth and tells how he wanted his face to be the first one the baby sees, how he helped deliver the baby, how he handed the baby to Mog, and how she said she had never been as in love with him as she was at that moment. Oh, how beautiful! A true hallmark moment, except that there are so many things that can't possibly be true, but we'll get to that in another video. Seriously, folks, I've not even received my book yet, but I'm already so done with it. I truly don't know whether I'll ever get to read it. Maybe I'll scan it and do some speed reading. I don't know. It is being delivered on the 24th, and maybe I'll have gained some courage by then. But before I close today's video, I need to address the more serious aspect of this farcical book. Yes, we are laughing at Harold, and the memes and jokes are flying on Instagram and Twitter, but there is a very serious side to all of this. By now, most of you will also know that Harold thought it would be a good idea to announce in his book that he killed 25 Taliban fighters in Afghanistan. He further revealed that he was neither proud nor ashamed of the action. He describes it as like removing chess pieces from a board. Now, I apologize to all of you who may feel differently, and in advance, I have to add that at my age, I am a realist and know that war equals death. But these comments in Harold's book fills me with disgust and deep sadness. Each soldier, regardless of which side he or she is fighting on, goes into battle convinced he is fighting for the right cause. Each soldier has a mother and father, siblings, some have wives and children, and this applies whether the soldier is British, American, Russian, Ukrainian, or Afghan, or even Taliban or British. And although I accept and understand casualties in war as being inevitable, as human, I do not accept any human life or animal life for that matter being referred to as chess pieces. And if nothing has ever convinced me that Harold is a crazy, nasty piece of work, than this did. To me, he has become subhuman, an empty shell without a soul. Not only does he apparently feel nothing for humans he does not know, but he clearly also feels nothing for his own family. Although it is not a surprise to anyone that people were killed, it is not acceptable for anyone to brag about numbers, whether those numbers are real or fictitious. And knowing the motto and creed of the Taliban, Harry painted a target not only on his own back, but also on the backs of his entire family on both sides of the pond. And to make sure I'm not exaggerating, I took a tour of social media, and here are a few responses. We checked and found that the days on which Prince Harry is mentioning the killing of 25 mujahideen, we didn't have any casualties in Helmand. Taliban leader Anas Haqqani told Al Jazeera on Friday. It is clear that civilians and ordinary people were targeted. Anas Haqqani also tweeted, and I quote, Mr. Harry, the ones you killed were not chess pieces. They were humans, before accusing Harold of war crimes. Harold justifies himself in the book using the memory of the 9/11 attacks and calls the Taliban enemies of humanity and fighting them an act of vengeance. And let's be honest, in a way it was. And yes, it resulted in a war, but it still does not give Harold the right to do a personal death count or brag about it. It is not his place. It is the job of seasoned politicians and military to calculate the wins and losses and decide what should become public knowledge and what shouldn't. It is called diplomacy in order to protect your people from further harm and fallout. A concept Harold will never understand and does not care enough for humanity to even try to understand. No, do not get me wrong. I'm not stupid or ignorant, and by no means can I ever find an excuse or forgiveness for atrocities committed by the Taliban. I am not denouncing actions by the West, but purely and utterly calling out the stupidity of one Harold, Harry, Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Duke of Sussex at it, Earl of fucking Dumb, and Baron of Shut Your Trap. Under the circumstances, I think Harold and his family should be banned from the coronation and banned from England for at least 3 years, as his presence will certainly endanger the King, the Prince of Wales, and extended family. I also believe that the time has come for British Parliament to intervene. It is clear that King Charles does not have what it takes to deal with Harold, which now resulted in this endangering British citizens, royal and non royal. My dear friends, during my time reporting on the royals and in particular Harold and Mog here on YouTube, I made a few mistakes, but I have also been correct a few times. And I think this is one of those times in which I will be proven right in the long term. If Parliament and the King do not act now and cut ties with Harold and Mog, it will end in tears for all of them. Harold has already made his bed. He will still shed many tears in the future and will eventually experience the result of his actions. But the King and British Parliament have to save the rest of the family and the citizens of the United Kingdom now. And that, my dear friends, for now is it. I'll be back in a short while and continue this discussion. So until then, please take good care of yourself. Bye.